Hey guys, KUZO here back with another video, and in this video today we're going to be doing another installment of my redesign series where we take a character from one story and redesign them to fit into another story, theme, or setting. This one we're going to be doing Cyberpunk Todoroki. I haven't actually done a redesign for Todoroki in a while, and the last two that I did was for Black Clover Magic Knight Todoroki, and the other one was, I believe, redesigning his hero costume. But yeah, I typically do a lot of steampunk redesigns, but I've been trying out some cyberpunk ones, and it seems like you guys like those redesigns as well, so I decided to give it a shot with Todoroki. And also, as you guys can probably tell, for those of you who have watched my redesigns before, I'm adding in a special little portion in the beginning where I'm showing my design process before I actually start the illustration. But yeah, for these redesigns, I don't always do this designing process prior to doing the illustration, because sometimes I have a very clear idea of what I want it to look like, and other times I don't. So this is a good way to get out the ideas and doing some of a concept sheet. So I pretty much just do a waist up view, then a further back view, and then I'm going to be doing a somewhat closer up view, just so that way I can get the rough idea of the whole shape of his design, so I know it looks good from afar, looks good mid distance to get a tiny bit of detail in there, and then I start doing a bit of a close-up here so I get a better idea of what everything looks like closer up on the face. And for the most part, I'm just working on these very loosely and not going into too much detail or cleaning up too much, because I'm just going to leave a little bit of freedom for the illustration when I actually start it. And what I was mostly thinking when doing this was trying to figure out how much metal I wanted to put on versus how much fabric I wanted to put on, because there's always so many different styles of cyberpunk that you can do, where it's more so cyborg focused, or you could do it as somewhat of a cyberpunk fashion design. And of course, even ones that have cyborg parts in it, they also have cyberpunk fashion in it as well. But I was trying to figure out how much of this I wanted to, make cyber-esque. Yeah, so I pretty much ended up settling on having a little bit of fabric and a lot of kind of like metal on his arms and his chest. And now we're starting on the actual illustration, just kind of putting out the, basic outline of his whole body, trying to get that down. I didn't have any plans to make this pose too action-y or too epic. I just wanted to be a pretty standard pose and kind of focus on the design more so than what he's doing in here, because he's using fire and ice. And I'm pretty sure there's some other positions I could have chose, and in fact just now I thought of some other positions I probably could have done, but I went with a pretty standard one. One of the things I was talking about in my other redesign videos was how I wish I could put him in different positions, because I was kind of putting him in a very standard position in order to be able to show off to the design a little bit more. But with this new format of being able to show off to the design, the basic design in the sketches in the beginning, I might be able to just do some cooler poses that might cover up some of the design, but with the whole part in the beginning, you guys will be able to see what it all looks like in its full nature somewhat. And then I could just kind of focus on making it look really cool with a cool position later on. But for now, we're just doing a standard one for this one. And right now I'm just kind of working off the design we did in the beginning that we worked out, and I have it up in front of me on my computer and just using it as reference. I already have that all worked out, and I'm also kind of taking liberties where I feel like I might want to add something or change something a little bit. I kind of take those as I'm going along with this final version. And you'll see as we move along in the illustration, I definitely do add some things, and I change a few things as we go. And also, I want to mention real quick that this is kind of funny that I decided to do Todoroki out of, some of the characters I could have done, because in this new season that's airing, Todoroki and Bakugo pretty much are non-existent in this new season that is airing. I don't know how far this season's going to be going after this main villain that's in it right now. If it goes a little bit further than what I'm thinking, then you will probably see him a little bit more towards the end. But for the most part, they're not really in it. But that's also alright, because we get to have some highlights for some other characters such as Kirishima, and I have not actually watched the past couple episodes from My Hero Academia, so I need to catch up on those. I'm probably going to be doing that the day that this video uploads. But I have already read that part in the manga, so I already know what happens. That's why I'm not like watching it episode by episode like, each time it comes out, because I already know what happens in it. But yeah, that's also a really fun thing. So you guys already have been seeing a lot of what's going on with him. So I like that development with Kirishima and kind of what they're doing with him in this arc. They're giving him some more character. And that's one of the hard things I feel like for an author who creates a series with so many characters. It's kind of hard to make them all feel like they have a real backstory to them, because it's hard to focus on all of them. I can imagine it pretty much becomes like a character juggling act when you have so many characters you have to focus on at once. But Horikoshi does a great job at it. But anyways, back to the illustration a little bit here. We pretty much laid down a lot of the stuff that was in the design from the beginning, and we're kind of just messing around with shapes of everything, trying to make sure everything is the right size and putting in a little bit more detail here and there. At this stage, I'm pretty much just making sure this whole middle part looks alright before I start moving on to the bottom section. Yep, now I'm moving on to the bottom section. I was kind of not looking forward to drawing these belts, because I didn't know how I was going to have them all connect to each other, and so I was connecting them to each other on a whim with kind of like belt buckle designs that I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to have fun. I had some ideas for some, like what I was thinking in my head for the belt buckles was just really standard cyberpunk stuff, so I wanted to try something a little bit different with the shapes. I mean, it's not that much different than normal cyberpunk shapes, but I wanted to just try something a tad bit different. But sometimes when you're trying something different, it's either a hit or miss, and this one's kind of, I feel like, is an in-between for those belt buckles. They don't really stand out, and they also don't necessarily flop either. They're just kind of there, which is better than them flopping. Yeah, and also as I'm going along doing the design, I'm just trying to put in the dark lines with the light lines to kind of just make the character pop, give it that little extra so everything's not too one width, but just enough variance to have that little pop to it. For those of you who don't know my supplies yet, I guess I'll just mention them here. I'm using a bristle board, and it's one of the larger ones. It's a smooth bristle board, and it's actually cut in half and then cut again a little bit to make it a little bit less long, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I cut it in half because I'm running out of bristle board paper, and I don't want to use a whole one on this. So this is a half bristle board. And for the pencil, I'm just using a 0.7 disposable Bic mechanical pencil. And as for the graphite weight, it's just whatever comes in it. I actually don't know what comes in it, but pretty much as long as it's not too hard and it's not too soft. I like it just right. Good lord. Anyways, and the paper I was using in the beginning was just on a cheap sketchbook I have that I just do some sketches, practicing, and designs in here and there. And in fact, it's actually the same sketchbook that I used in my real-time video that I did recently. I think it's actually the last video I did where it's just my sketchbook practice. And like I mentioned, it's just a cheap one. It was like $2 and something cents. It was from Target. And the paper is pretty decent. It's half between being rough and soft, but it's not rough. I really like smooth paper, so this one's still pretty smooth compared to some sketchbooks. And yeah, so also let me know if you guys like that beginning part where I showed you guys a little bit of my designing process in the beginning of the video for this character design. If you guys like that type of stuff, I'll definitely do them in my other redesign series, and if I do any original characters, maybe I'll do that with them too. Yeah, definitely let me know if you guys like that type of thing for these sorts of videos. Because my mindset on it was pretty much, adds a little bit more variety to it. We don't just jump straight into the illustration, and gives you a little bit more of my thought process behind on what's going on. And maybe for one of my other ones, I can add in my thumbnailing process as well, which is it's really short. It'll probably be like 10 seconds sped up, because the thumbnailing process is just a bunch of scribbly lines pretty much inside of like 2 inches by 3 inches, something like that. It's small, since you're pretty much just trying to get the gist of the image. Yeah, so let's get back to the illustration a little bit. One of the things I was thinking about at this point was trying to make sure I wasn't putting in too much stuff, too much little indents and detail in certain spots, because with these types of illustrations, and especially this type of theme and setting, it can be really easy to add too many things and make your illustration a little bit too cluttered. When looking at it now, I do feel like I could have gone a little bit lighter on some of the things and try to make a little bit more bolder decisions to kind of portray the genre that we're drawing in, but I put a little bit more detail to kind of push that instead. Which that's just something for me to keep in mind as I'm going along and doing designs like this, and doing a little bit more research into cyberpunk-esque shapes and certain things like that kind of push the design and make it kind of feel like what it is. Like with these canisters on the side, I didn't know how much detail I wanted to put into them, and how far I wanted to go with them, so I went a little bit more simple on the design, because I just didn't want to do too much with them, because there's a lot of things I could have put on them and had even hanging from them or indents, but I already felt like there was so many of that type of thing going on in this illustration, it would have been just a little bit too much. And as for the fire effect and ice effect, I went kind of light with them, and the ice effect I was just kind of going on a whim, and the fire effect I tried to make it more of a swirly effect going straight up instead of the normal technique I typically do. So I was just trying something a little bit different and something a little bit more flashy, I guess you could say, instead of more explosion-y feel or flowy feel. It's still flowy, but in a different kind of way. But yeah, in any case, if you guys like my arts and want to help support what I do on this channel, you guys can check me on my Patreon, link in the description. And I'd like to take this time to thank my current Patreons. You guys are the best pencil shinobis there are, and really help me be able to do what I do on this channel. And I'd like to take this time to give special thanks to my Chunin and Jonin tier Patreons. You guys are awesome, and I do need to update this list. So, but yeah, seriously guys, you guys are awesome, and thank you very much. As well as, don't want to forget everyone who's made it this far in the video. You guys are also awesome too, and thank you for watching this far. And hope you guys have been enjoying the video. Yeah, if you guys like this video, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you guys are new to this channel, like you see, please subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notified when each video comes out. Like always guys, hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.